Finn thanked him formally. Although most of them were out of his own interest, Sioran did help them many times. As the leader of the family, he naturally had to express his attitude. Moreover, Sioran specially agreed to his previous private request to take care of Aisi. All this deserves the heartfelt gratitude of the leader of the little people. I'll talk to Loki when we get back to the base. Although Loki and your main god Hestia don't have a good relationship. But I believe we can cooperate in the future, and I personally owe you a favor. The brave seems to have undergone some changes. Now he is absolutely rational, and occasionally he doesn't suppress his emotions. From the perspective of the relationship between the main gods of the clan, Loki's clan should not get too close to Hestia's clan. But from his personal and clan members' views on Sioran, they all think that hero is definitely a person worth getting to know and cooperate with. Well, it's up to you, Finn. Anyway, you are always so serious, we can play together when we have the chance in the future. Sioran, who knows Finn's personality, also nodded casually. He doesn't like formal occasions. He only lives according to his own wishes. As for cooperation with Loki's clan, it's not impossible if there is something that interests him. The personalities of Loki's clan members, except for the werewolf, are unexpectedly good. If they happen to have the same goal later, he wouldn't mind cooperating with them. Sioran suddenly remembered the monster he killed on the 50th floor in 5.9, and told Finn casually. There is another thing about the monsters on the 50th floor before. In addition to their sensitivity to magic power, the color of their magic stones is also different. The color of the center of their magic stones is rich in color, and the rest has a few blue-purple colors. This is not normal. Sioran noticed this before chopping up the worms. Whether it is the monsters in the upper or deep layers, their magic stones are basically blue-purple. There are only slight differences in the depth of the color, but there is definitely no color. He didn't know whether this was the peculiarity of the new monsters in the underground maze or some human factors. After all, the Zagnath that was killed casually before didn't even have a magic stone. It can be seen that anything can happen in the underground maze. Sioran told Finn this information because he wanted him to ask Loki, the main god of the clan. These gods who have lived for hundreds of millions of years may know some special news. As for the goddess girl of his own family, what kind of information channels do you expect a home god to have? Rich colored magic stones. I see, I'll ask Loki when I get back. Finn felt a slight tingling sensation on the thumb of his right hand, and had a vague premonition in his heart. Chapter 44 How are you so skilled? Subscribe. Argonauts, don't forget to come to our base. Sioran, I will treat you well then. Before parting, Dione smiled at Sioran ambiguously. The Amazon twins are still enthusiastic and bold, and only he can enjoy this kind of treatment. The boy broke into their hearts with an absolutely strong attitude. The impression left in the past not only did not slowly dissipate with time, but accumulated more deeply. The weak can't enter the eyes of the twins at all, let alone get close. The proud and strong heroes will only surrender to the men who can take away their bodies and minds. And this man has appeared 5 years ago. BJ. Unlike the Amazon sisters who frankly express their emotions, a certain blonde girl just stared at him closely. Noticing the look from Aisi, Sioran smiled helplessly. What a stubborn girl. I know, I will come over later. Wait for my training, teaching. It was a close call, I almost said something wrong. Sioran then separated from the members of Loki's family, and went to the guild with Fulvice to submit the commission. After receiving the commission reward, he said goodbye to Aegina and walked towards the residence. The current residence of the Hestia family is still the house that Sioran bought. There are not many members now, so the residence has not been changed for the time being. He naturally has enough money to change the residence to a large mansion. But that would be too lonely. The girls are also happy with this, and they don't like overly spacious houses. They enjoy their current life very much. Except that they are a little dissatisfied with a certain stupid god who often occupies Sioran at night. The behavior of the main god of their family eating alone is often criticized by a group of girls. Lord Sioran, are you here to buy something? Fulvice was a little confused, and they stopped in front of a clothing store. This is Lafayette. Even in the entire clothing store circle of Orari North Street, it is the most high-end store. Sioran smiled at the elf girl and did not respond immediately. He took her directly into the store, and the entrance was full of beautiful clothes of various styles. They were all woven from top-grade silk or precious materials. Some clothes were even inlaid with special gems, and there was a dazzling array of things. The decoration of the entire store was also extremely luxurious. The shining magic stone crystal chandelier was hung on the top, emitting a dazzling brilliance. The carpets in the store were all some kind of precious monster drop props, with an extremely soft touch. Hello, please customize a long skirt for my female companion. Sioran greeted the female store manager stationed at the counter and made his request. Ext. Feyerwazi was a little absent-minded. She had never expected that he would buy her clothes. The girls of the family usually wore uniforms when they went to the maze. This was specially made by Sioran for them. After achieving the materialization of the soul, he already had the concept of immortality. He could create weapons with the concept of immortality by his own will. The uniforms of the girls in the family were made by him, and they will not be worn out at all. He also added the concept of immortality to his own goddess blade. Of course, this concept of immortality is limited to the same level. If there is a higher level existence, it is not ruled out that this immortality can be broken. The uniforms of the Hestia family are clothes that Sioran spent some time making. The main color is the blue of the goddess, and the edges are outlined by white. It is a set of slim clothes suitable for combat. It can highlight the girl's graceful curves without revealing a trace of spring light. On weekdays, they only wear them when they go to the underground maze. After all, girls always love beauty, and naturally wear other beautiful clothes on a daily basis. Today was originally the time for them to go out to buy casual clothes. Feyerwazi followed Sioran to the maze, so naturally she did not participate. Therefore, when he took the commission in the morning, he decided to customize a piece of clothing for the girl. Looking at the stunned elf girl, Sioran gently touched her head and said, "Go, this is a thank you gift for accompanying me to the maze today, Songsi." The elf girl was stunned in place, and it seemed that she had not yet reacted. Seeing this, Sioran was a little helpless. In the surprised eyes of the female store manager, he accurately reported the body size of the elf girl. "How come you are so skilled?" The shop owner's eyes seemed to reveal this meaning. After waiting for about an hour, under the fierce attack of money, the female shop owner quickly completed the production of the clothes. After coming to her senses, Feyerwazi then walked into the fitting room. When the girl came out, the air in the store seemed to become much sweeter. Even the crystal chandelier shining above her head was overshadowed by the girl's light at this moment. Feyerwazi was wearing a long dress with a white mane collar and a colorful ornament on her waist. The cuffs and skirt corners were all white lace, with a different kind of temptation. There were also various rare accessories on the long dress, perfectly combined into several dazzling streams. There was a thumb-sized diamond-shaped green gem on the chest. Pure white elegance, this is probably the feeling. With Feyerwazi's delicate and slender facial lines, she looked like a princess from a fairy tale. Or like a fairy in a dream. The girl's small hands tightly grasped the edge of her skirt, and her usually cold face was already full of blush. There was a ripple in her eyes, and at the same time, there was a little shyness and uneasiness. She looked at the boy in front of her timidly. Seeing such an elf girl for the first time, even Sioran was distracted for a moment. The originally pure face was now covered with charming pink. The charm of purity and enchantment made Sioran frankly express his current feelings. Very beautiful, I am completely fascinated, Fearwazi. Hearing the affirmation of the person she loves, the shyness on Songsi's face turned into a positive smile. At this moment, the world in front of Sioran seemed to be much brighter. Then, after paying a fee of up to 10 million Ferris, he took Fearwazi home directly. It has to be said that the price is indeed expensive, and this fee is enough to equip a team of adventurers with all the equipment. But for Sioran, funds are not a problem, as long as they are happy. For the strong, money is just an optional accessory. Things that can be obtained at any time are naturally not taken seriously. As soon as the door of the house was opened, all the girls looked at them. The focus was on the luxurious long dress worn by the elf girl. "Hey Miss Fulvice, you didn't go out with us today and sneaked out." Liluluka, who knew the habits of the elf girl, instantly guessed that it was the long dress bought for her by her own leader. "I also think it's wrong to sneak out, although I envy her." Yamato, who was wearing a kimono, also looked at Fulvice with envy. "Okay, I will buy it for you in the future. It's hard for Fulvice to accompany me today." Seeing that the atmosphere of the girls was getting warmer, Sioran spoke to comfort them. Otherwise, Fulvice beside him would not dare to stay here later. "The elf girl is quite innocent. Ran, I will punish you to accompany me on a date at the monster festival the day after tomorrow." The god girl rushed over directly, and Sioran caught her skillfully. "Don't rush ahead, Lady Hestia." Rarely, the usually calm Amide also came over. The girl who likes reading books like Hestia couldn't help but take the initiative. Although she was talking to the god girl, her eyes were always fixed on Sioran. "Then let's go on a date together on the day of the monster festival." Feeling the eyes of the girls around her, Sioran made a decisive decision. The monster festival is an event proposed by the guild. The organizer is the Ganesha family, one of the most powerful families in Orario. This event is held once a year. In the past few years, Sioran often missed it because of the wrong timing. This year, there is no other thing to disturb her, so she can go with the girls to have a look. But according to the information provided by Aina, it is actually an activity like the arena. The Ganesha family will go to the underground maze to bring back some living monsters. When the monster festival comes, they will release them in a wide arena. Then, these monsters are tamed by specific trainers. Well, Sioran personally finds it quite boring. Generally, the monsters captured on the ground are not too strong to avoid accidents. After all, in Orario, in addition to a large number of adventurers, there are also ordinary civilians living there. The strength and influence of the Gainsa clan are very strong, and the monster festival they hold will naturally be a grand celebration. If a monster that is too strong is caught and gets out of control, it will be a nightmare for the civilians participating in the celebration. Therefore, the monsters in the monster festival are basically some upper or middle level monsters. Not to mention that the monsters are generally weak and boring. Even the form of trainers taming monsters in public is not interesting to Yuan Ran. But since Hestia and the others want to visit this festival, he will naturally follow them. After all, it is not the festival itself that is important, but the people who participate in the festival together. Pictured is Amide. Chapter 45. It hurts, please subscribe. Tat. The Grand Monster Festival was held as scheduled. Sioran led the girls of the family to leave the station and head to East Street where the festival was held. The venue of the festival was the circular arena between East Street and the 3rd District. In addition to his own stupid god and girl, Sioran also invited other girls. But they all had their own plans. Aina was responsible for the operation and management of certain areas of the Monster Festival due to the arrangement of the guild. The girls of Australia's family were on their daily journey to maintain order and justice. A certain forging goddess was worried about the strange eyes of her god friends and did not respond to this invitation. Siar could have come, but was later captured by Mia to continue working. It's so miserable. Siar. When Sioran and the others arrived at East Street, the street was filled with the lively atmosphere of the festival. Orcs, dwarves, elves. Adventurers of various races walked through the street with rosy faces. Even some adventurers who usually have bad tempers are smiling at this time. Obviously, they are all immersed in this grand ceremony. The monster festival held only once a year seems to be extremely popular in this maze city. I don't know whether it is the influence of the organizer, the Ganesha family, or the unique form of this festival. Or perhaps both, which created the current atmosphere. There are several thin ropes passing over the heads of the adventurers. The thin ropes are tied with various colored flags, fluttering and dancing with the breeze. The patterns of the flags are divided into two types, the outline of a ferocious lion representing a monster, and the elephant head emblem of the Ganesha family. Under the intertwined colorful flags, there are not only adventurers with vigorous blood and excited faces. Ordinary civilians also walk on the street with their children. Various cheerful sounds echoed in East Street, adding a touch of bright colors to the maze city. Ran, come and eat my fried potato balls. Hestia held a bit of fried potato balls in her little hand and handed it to the boy. There were still some food residues at the corners of her mouth, and the goddess girl was completely immersed in the celebration of the festival. When she first came to the world, the first food she came into contact with was the fried potato balls at the roadside stall. At that time, she was still temporarily living in the residence of the Hephaestus family. This food was also brought to her by the family members of her own god friend. She liked the fried potato balls the first time she tasted them, and thought it was the most delicious food she had ever eaten. Even after living with Sioran, she often ran to the street to buy fried potato balls. Therefore, for the goddess girl, her favorite food should naturally be shared with her favorite person. It's delicious, Hestia. Sioran did not reject the goddess girl's intentions, and wiped the oil stains from the corners of her mouth. At this time, the goddess was completely a lovely and innocent girl. Lady Hestia is not such a loser at this moment. Lady Sioran, please try mine. After getting familiar with Hestia, Lily Luca naturally knew the true appearance of her Lord God. She hid her sneaking behavior without any hesitation. She took the opportunity to hand the puff in her hand to the hero she had been in love with for a long time. Not bad, Lily. Sioran took a bite of the puff, and the taste was very smooth. It was a little sweet, but it was not bad overall. Since he entered East Street, he enjoyed the various feedings from the girls. Even Amide and Fulvice, who were relatively cold and calm in the past. At this moment, they all held back their shyness in their hearts, and also blushed and fed the food they liked to the boy they admired. The beautiful boys and girls formed a unique landscape on East Street. With the influence of the Hestia family now, naturally no one would fail to recognize their identities. Especially the boy who was already called a hero in private. The adventurers and civilians on the street looked at Sioran and his friends with admiration and awe. Even though everyone in the Hestia family had an exceptional appearance, no one dared to disturb them. Before Sioran's reputation was completely established, there was a medium-sized family that tried to poach people, but was destroyed by Sioran alone in an instant. Since then, no one dared to provoke the new king of the post-labyrinth city. Cassandra, aren't you going? The heroic Daphne looked at her best friend beside her with envy in her eyes. I don't need to. With Miss Lily and the others, I won't bother Lord Sioran. Cassandra envied him, but she doesn't have the courage to take that step yet. Especially when facing the gazes of many people around her, the weak-hearted girl will appear unusually timid. However, when she is alone, she will show her unique charm of a boy. Perhaps because of past experiences, Cassandra's heart is often unstable. Even if she admires her hero, she usually lacks the courage to approach him. She is a girl with outstanding appearance and figure, but she always falls into self-denial. Although Jiuran often encourages her, her confidence is still far from enough. Cassandra, try this puff. Lily recommended it, it's delicious. Sioran naturally would not ignore her and handed the puff in her hand to the girl. Cassandra stared at the puff in front of her blankly and forgot to speak. It seems that she didn't expect the boy to do this suddenly. Daphne, who was standing beside him, couldn't stand it anymore and hit her best friend with her elbow. Ouch, it hurt so much, Daphne. The girl made a cute low moan, and looked at Daphne with a look of grievance and confusion. Idiot, Master Sioran is like this, why are you still staring at Tianqian? Daphne looked at her best friend with some regret. I know. Thank you, Master Sioran. Cassandra came back to her senses and didn't dare to look her hero in the eye. She lowered her head and timidly took the puff from Sioran's hand. Although her expression could not be seen, a slight blush had already appeared on the girl's fair skin. It can be guessed how shy and cute the face hidden under her hair would be. The girl who ate the puff in small bites was like a small animal. Sioran looked at this girl who was always timid and shy with amusement. He gently placed his hand on her head and said in a warm voice, "Enjoy this festival, Cassandra. I'm looking forward to your feeding too." Cassandra was completely addicted to the boy's tenderness. Since the day in the underground maze, she was completely conquered. She admired and loved her only hero. He was the only one who trusted her and would never ignore her. The girl would never forget the light that bloomed in the darkness. Sure enough, I would be satisfied as long as I could stay by his side. Cassandra reaffirmed her feelings. Picture shows Cassandra. Chapter 46. He is not an ordinary person. Please subscribe. While Sioran and her girls were enjoying the celebration, in a more private place, the two gods also began a private meeting. This is a famous coffee shop on East Street. The decoration on the second floor tends to be warm. A person wearing a dark blue robe sat at a round table. The wide robe could not cover her proud curves. Her long hair, scattered like the Milky Way, shone with luster, and her dreamy face was amazingly charming. Her slender white fingers gently stroked the cup in front of her. Full of elegance and laziness, rippling with unspeakable charm. She was the goddess of beauty and love, Freya. So, are you really attracted to a man? It's really interesting. You, who used to be fooled by those male gods in heaven, actually fell in love with a mortal. The goddess who spoke curved her crescent eyes and had a playful smile on her lips. She was another king of Orario, Loki. Oh, Loki, you are so interesting. He is not a mortal. Freya covered her mouth lightly. The charm that emanated in an instant made Loki, who was also a goddess, stunned for a moment. As if she thought of a certain figure, the corner of the goddess' mouth could not help but curl up a smile. You said something very interesting, idiot. Loki's face was a little serious, staring at the goddess in front of him. She and Freya were old acquaintances in heaven, and they were very familiar with each other. In heaven, although Freya was surrounded by a group of male gods. But this woman was just teasing them badly, treating them as tools or even lower beings. Those male gods thought they could win the favor of the goddess of beauty, and wagged their tails around her like obedient dogs. But everything was just self-deception. They couldn't even get close to this bad-tempered woman, and were easily controlled by her body and mind. For Freya, that was a way for her to pass the boring time for a long time. Loneliness and boredom always tortured the hearts of the gods in heaven. Including Loki himself, he once instigated the gods to kill each other because of boredom. Looking at their bloody battlefield with cold eyes, Pfeg, there was always a mocking and cold smile on the corner of his mouth. In fact, Loki in heaven was more inclined to the evil god, and he only retracted all his fangs after he went down to the world. She was full of interest in all the unknown in the underworld, and specially formed a family for this purpose. While enjoying the fun, she also began to change slowly because of the members of the family. The evil god who was once unbridled in the heavens has now become one of the guardians of the labyrinth city. Loki knows that he is changing, but his old friend has never changed. No gods or mortals can contact him in the heavens or the underworld. Freya always sits on her throne like a queen. She looks down on everything around her indifferently, not taking anyone or God seriously. She regards everyone as puppets that can be manipulated at will and can be discarded at will. Loki is very sure of this. Even after going to the underworld, the members of the family recruited by Freya. They are just mortals who can't resist her beauty and fall. This bad woman doesn't care about them at all. Just as a pure tool or some kind of puppet. Freya has eyes called eyes of insight that can see the essence of the soul of Zikang in the underworld. There is no agreement among the gods to prohibit their use, so it cannot be regarded as an extremely powerful divine power. It is just a manifestation of the essence of the goddess of beauty. It is an innate ability, so it is not restricted by the ban. After going to the lower world, Freya used these eyes to see the potential of her people. She took in children with talents and qualifications and formed one of the strongest families in Orario. Collecting these people with shining souls is just one of her little pleasures. In the eyes of other adventurers, the powerful first-level adventurers are still just dispensable things. Just like she teased those male gods in the heaven. It seems very close, but in fact there is a gap like a dimension between them, and they can never get close. However, this time Loki noticed that when the idiot goddess mentioned him, the fanaticism and obsession in her eyes were something she had never seen before. It was hard to imagine that such emotions would appear in this woman. She might really fall in love with a mortal in the lower world. Thinking of this possibility, even Loki, who has always been calm, at this moment, her heart began to stir up a storm, and she hid her emotions in her narrowed eyes. She could make this goddess who used to sit on the clouds and overlook everything show such a crazy state. This also means how bright the soul of that citizen will be. Thinking of this, Loki opened his slightly closed eyes. Looking at the old friend in front of him, he affirmed. It is the boy hero. In today's Orario, there is only one man who is qualified to be called a hero. The Sword of Hope of the Hestia family Sioran. A man who achieved the feat of Leave 8 in just 4 years and surpassed all previous heroic records. In the long life of the gods, they have never seen a citizen with such possibilities. Even in all the hero halls in the past, he is enough to stand at the top. No need to refute, no doubt. Isai, who served as a guard beside Loki, was briefly absent-minded after hearing this name. Then he looked at the goddess of beauty Freya seriously, and there seemed to be some fluctuations in his eyes. "Oh Loki, your child is also very cute." Freya sensed Aisi's gaze and looked at her with interest. "Idiot goddess, Miss Aisi is our proud child." "Aisi, you too, don't stare at this idiot for too long, after all, she is also a goddess." Loki reminded Aisi, worried that the girl would be affected by the charm of the goddess of beauty. After all, Freya's beauty is the essence of the world's beauty. Ignoring gender and race, it is easy to fall for her. The picture shows Freya. Chapter 47, Eternally Addicted to Heaven with Him, subscribe. Freya ignored Loki's reminder and retracted her gaze from Ace. The soul light of the sword princess in front of her was indeed shining, but it was completely incomparable to him. Too small, too dim. Freya's fingers gently stroked the cup and turned her gaze to the window on the second floor. Her eyes gradually became diffuse, as if she was trapped in some kind of memory. "It was an accident when I first saw that child. He appeared outside the Tower of Babel with Astria's child." When him was mentioned, a strange color began to rise in Freya's eyes. Facing the goddess of beauty in this state, Loki on the opposite side frowned slightly. Ignoring Loki's surprise, Freya continued to tell the scene that happened at that time. My soul was burning the moment I saw him. That dazzling light is far beyond the comparison of all the gods I have seen combined. Speaking of this, Freya's soft cheeks were flushed, and the enthusiasm and love in her eyes were almost overflowing. Completely no longer dignified and elegant as before, she did not hide her desire. The round and full beauty kept rising and falling with the rhythm of the goddess's breathing. The seductive arc swayed a wave of amazing charm. The slender and white fingers unconsciously grasped the cup in her hand. As if only this could make her calm down a little. This is the crazy love of the goddess. The beauty and love that are enough to ignite both the soul of oneself and the other party at the same time. Tisk. Seeing Freya in this state, Loki couldn't help but exclaimed. She was indeed a little shocked by such a goddess of beauty. As a god, Loki certainly knew what the goddess of beauty's current state meant. That is the love factory that she will chase after the boy to the end even if his life comes to an end. But thinking of some interesting things, Loki's mouth corners are hung with a playful smile again. No matter how brilliant he is not something you can control now. He has long been a follower of the dwarf, and his strength is also the strongest in Orario. There is an insurmountable gap between your OTA and him. Idiot, you can't get him. Speaking of this, the smile on Loki's mouth corners became a little twitchy. Who would have thought that the dwarf could meet such a child? It's just a dwarf who came so late. Apart from that hateful pair of breasts, there is no other use at all. Sioran, no, I've seen too much. Now I've got such a great bargain. I don't know where I got this kid, but now he has become the strongest in Orario. When Hestia first went down to the mortal world, Loki often went to her to taunt her, constantly hitting her poor, hateful breasts. The situation is now completely reversed. In the occasional gods meeting, Loki was often taunted by Hestia. Originally, she rarely participated in the gods meeting. After having her own children, she often proudly attended their gatherings. Every time she could make Loki cry. The overall strength of the family, which originally had some advantages, has gradually leveled over the years. That monster kid. Even if he was in the heaven, Loki, who thinks he is more of an evil god, can't help but admire the black-haired boy. If he had appeared earlier, the title of the strongest in Orario would not have gone to Zeus and Hera. Loki can be completely sure of this. Yes, the growth of that child has completely exceeded my imagination. But it doesn't matter. The thing that gods like us lack the least is time. Do you know Loki? A year ago, the soul of that child changed fundamentally again. The brilliant light even makes me want to release my divine power to take him away. And he will be immersed in heaven forever. Freya completely crushed the cup in her hand. After the divine power was sealed, except for special individual gods, the physical fitness should not be much different from that of ordinary people. It can even be said that Freya, as a female god, should be more fragile. But at this moment, she crushed the cup in front of her. The eyes that originally exuded a strange light were now filled with a madness that frightened the gods. Even Aisi, who originally had no expression, couldn't help shrinking her body at this moment. A trace of shock flashed across her face. Loki was completely stunned. If she could understand Freya's madness before, she could understand a little bit. But now, when she mentioned that boy, she almost lost all her reason. It's really hell. What kind of possibility does that monster boy have? He actually made the guy in front of him become like this. While being horrified, Loki's interest in a certain black-haired boy reached its peak. A year ago, when Sioran's soul materialization miracle was completed when it is completed. The process of the complete transformation of the essence should all be seen in the eyes of the goddess of beauty. The goddess of beauty has aroused a madness and obsession at all costs. So what are you going to do in this monster festival? Those little tricks can't be hidden from me. Loki knows the character of his old friend in front of him, she will definitely make trouble. Oh Loki, you are still so sharp. But it's not a big deal. I just want to see his battle with my own eyes. I want to watch the glory of his battle. The gods cannot use most of their divine power, so they don't know the specific situation of the underground maze. Sioran's time to explore the underground maze is not fixed, and his speed is even more amazing when he is alone. Even if Freya wants to use the only divine mirror that can be used in the underworld against the rules, she has not found a suitable opportunity. The boy's actions always exceed her expectations. Therefore, she planned to do something at this monster festival. Want to appreciate someone's radiance up close. Abrupt. The goddess of beauty noticed a family walking across the street. The black-haired boy in the lead was exuding a unique charm and presence. A group of stunning girls followed him, seeming to be completely immersed in the enjoyment of the festival. Then I have something else to do, so I'll leave today, Loki. Freya hurriedly said goodbye to Loki and left, leaving the red-haired goddess with an inexplicable face. After leaving the cafe, the goddess of beauty put away the enthusiasm and fascination in her eyes. She looked at Sioran and the others in the distance without leaving a trace, and then left quietly. From the first time she saw this child, she knew that he had extremely sharp insight. Therefore, she was able to restrain her gaze from looking at him. She could hide her love and fascination, and at the same time, for some reason, it was gradually becoming softer. The goddess of beauty came to a dark space similar to a warehouse. There are many iron cages in the room, and the monsters in the cages are captured by the Ganesha family from the underground maze. They are also one of the protagonists of this monster festival celebration. Freya gently approached the Ganesha family members who were guarding this place. Don't move. It was not an agile attack, just a soft whisper. Charm instantly covered her body, and all her mobility was instantly lost. Then, the female members of the Ganesha family fainted on the ground. Freya's beauty is a collection of the concept of beauty in the world. This is the ultimate charm. This kind of charm that cannot be resisted by reason can even shake the instincts of creatures. With the will of the goddess of beauty, the spirit of the creature can be easily manipulated, so that it can become a slave. Freya looked at the monsters in several cages, and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Asking for flowers 00. The dim room seemed to become bright at this moment. Then it's you. Use your flesh and blood to build a gorgeous stage for that child. The goddess's gentle voice was filled with the charm of confusing reason. Just relying on words, she easily controlled the monster. Bang, 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 bang. This was the sound of the iron chains breaking one after another, and the monster trapped in the cage completely lost its mind. Under some kind of stimulation, they broke free from the chains that bound them. Then, all of them came out of the cage. Sioran led the girls into the arena, and the performance in the arena was in full swing. The monster in the center of the circular arena was a wild boar, and her trainer was a woman. She wore gorgeous clothes and kept dodging the monster's impact, grasping the perfect timing. Every time she just dodged, it was obvious that she did it deliberately. But the result was very effective. Oh. This circular arena that can accommodate 50,000 people was filled with the enthusiastic cheers of the audience. Whether it was the combination of Beauty and the Beast, or the interweaving of brushing shoulders with death every time. It was enough to stimulate the senses of most people present. Let them cheer loudly. Sioran met an acquaintance here. The brown-haired half-elf girl was looking at the venue with a little worry. Aegina, why do you look like this? Sioran greeted the girl gently. Ah, Sioran. You are here. Aegina looked a little surprised, and the worry on her face disappeared in an instant. Well, it's a rare festival, how about being happier? As he spoke, Sioran put the wreath he bought on the roadside on her head. Thank you. Aegina was a little shy, but she didn't refuse. The worries in her heart also disappeared because of his arrival, and sweet happiness flowed in her heart. The extra wreath that Lord Sioran bought before was for Aegina. Feyerwazi still stayed beside Sioran, and understood the boy's previous behavior. "Ah, everyone from Hestia's family, long time no see." Aegina then saw the other girls around Sioran. Her face was slightly red, and then she greeted them generously. "Ran, you are getting more and more skilled in dealing with girls, task." A certain god girl didn't know whether she was sighing or something, and her tone was a little inexplicable. Sioran rubbed Hestia's silky black hair to eliminate the goddess' jealousy. Aegina was worried that there would be an accident during this festival. Sioran looked back at the half-elf girl and said, "Yes, I always feel this way at this time every year, maybe I think too much." Aina put her hand on her chest, and gradually felt relieved as Sioran and the others arrived. The monster festival was initiated by the guild, and the organizer was the Ganesha clan. According to the information Aina received, it was proposed by the guild's top leaders. It can be regarded as a festival jointly held by both parties. Although she didn't understand why the top leaders came up with such an idea, she had to obey. There are a large number of adventurers in Orari, from all over the world. They belong to the upper class in this maze city, while the rest of the civilians are at the bottom. As members of the guild, they naturally prefer adventurers. Whether it is the benefits of exploring the underground maze or protecting the stability and order of the city, adventurers must be the center of this maze city. Therefore, adventurers always have many frictions with civilians on weekdays. The holding of the monster festival may also give civilians an additional channel to vent their dissatisfaction with adventurers on weekdays. Thinking of this, Aina was relieved. Then he accompanied Sioran to watch the competition in the field. Pictured is Aina 0. Chapter 48. Young God, please subscribe. There's a monster. Ah, 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 ah. Just as Sioran and the girls were enjoying the rare festival, a shrill scream came from afar. Ina's face, which was originally smiling, became shaken. Sioran narrowed his eyes and looked at the direction where the sound came from. There he sensed several violent auras, full of cruelty and coldness. The monster escaped. "Hestia, you all stay here, I'll go over there to take a look." "Don't worry, Aina, I'm here." Sioran made his judgment in an instant. First, he comforted Aina, who was a little shaken by the scream. Then his figure disappeared directly from the spot. The moment he left, the black-haired elf girl also chased after him. "Really?" Lady Fulvice followed Lady Sioran to 903 again. Lilica was a little helpless, but then she looked at the remaining girls with a serious face. "Ming, Chagisa, and Lady Daphne, please protect Lady Hestia and Miss Aegina. Lady Cassandra and Lady Armid, prepare to treat civilians who may be injured later." After her leader left, the little human girl skillfully arranged the companions of the family. They have explored the underground maze together many times over the years, and the tacit understanding between them has long been beyond words. Following Lily Luca's command, the girls of the Hestia family calmly responded to the riots around them. When Sioran came to the source of the unrest, a large number of adventurers and civilians were fleeing in panic, with panic and fear on their faces. Destroyed buildings can be seen everywhere. The colorful flags that were originally hanging overhead were broken and fell to the ground at this moment. The bright and beautiful flag surface no longer exists, leaving only the messy dirt and dust. There are still many adventurers on the street. Items that were randomly discarded by the adventurers when they fled. Food, toys, and even weapons. Apparently, some adventurers tried to stop the fleeing monsters, but their strength was beyond the adventurers' imagination. Unable to fight, they could only throw down their weapons and flee with the crowd. "Hey, Don't squeeze me. Get out of my way. The crowd on the street was completely devoid of the previous liveliness and order. Both adventurers and ordinary civilians were trying desperately to leave this area. Like a flock of sheep being invaded by wild beasts, they could only scatter and dodge helplessly. The adventurers' angry curses, the children's cries, the fearful and piercing screams. It seemed that the previous peaceful scene it was like a dream. Everyone was driven by instinct and wanted to leave this terrible situation as soon as possible. The prosperous and lively atmosphere before was replaced by endless panic and fear in the blink of an eye. Well, the movement was really big. Sioran sighed for a while, and then rose directly into the air. He released some of his breath and searched for the monsters wreaking havoc in the city. At the same time, a golden figure moved quickly on the street. After seeing the black-haired boy rising into the air, he stopped moving. Sioran naturally noticed her. It was Aisi from the Loki family. But he quickly looked away. He had locked all the monsters. There were a total of 9. The monsters escaped. There were silver-backed apes in the upper levels, as well as sword-horned deer and giant monsters in the middle levels. For the adventurers on the ground, who were mostly 4.1, it was indeed an irresistible disaster. No wonder some adventurers had dropped their weapons before. Facing these middle-level monsters, even 4.2 upper-level adventurers needed to be on high alert. Not to mention those lower-level adventurers in 4.1. However, it was a good courage to dare to show weapons to monsters higher than their level. Then Sioran stopped thinking about it and locked onto the monsters wreaking havoc in various areas. The black goddess's blade appeared in the air, and silver light began to flash on the sword. It was obviously a long sword with a pitch-black body, but at this moment it was as bright as light. The air was also retreating due to fear, as if it had encountered an unbeatable enemy and made a sound. The concept of sharpness began to cover the surroundings. Even the adventurers and civilians who were frantically fleeing below felt the stinging pain on their skin. The originally panicked crowd suddenly stopped because of this invisible pressure. That's the sword of hope. Among the fleeing crowd, someone finally noticed the black-haired boy in the air. People around who heard his voice stopped at the same time. This name seemed to have some kind of magic, which gradually calmed their restless hearts. For 4 years, the boy has been constantly refreshing his great achievements. Not only challenged the cognition of the gods, but also established a belief for the adventurers and residents of the Maze City. This is the sense of security brought by the strong like a stabilizing force. Gradually, they all cast their eyes on the black-haired boy in the air. The black long sword in his hand is exuding an exaggerated sharpness. Just a casual glance will make your eyes sting. In the sunshine under the light, the boy's hair was shining. There was a faint silver light around him, and his perfect face was a little holy at this time. His black eyes looked down at everything indifferently. Rather than being an adventurer, he was more like a young god. Everyone in the field fell into silence, and some of them looked at Sioran with fanaticism. This was the influence of his miracle in 4 years, whether 1.4 adventurers or civilians. Even if someone was unhappy with him, jealous or even hated him, they would not doubt his strength or deny his ability. Anyone who tried to challenge the hero had turned into white bones under his feet. He ignored the crowd below. Sioran waved the goddess's blade carelessly. The sharp sword light turned into silver lightning, running in different directions. The next moment, oh 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 oh! The screams of monsters rang out in each block at the same time, and then completely subsided. The monster that was wreaking havoc on the street a second ago suddenly became the king. After dealing with all the monsters, Sioran disappeared directly into the air. Pictured is Freya. Chapter 49. I really want it. Please subscribe. After dealing with all the monsters, Sioran disappeared directly in the air. He didn't care about the sluggish crowd below, and came to the side of the elf girl who was chasing him. As expected of Lord Sioran, you solved it so quickly. A touch of intoxicating pink rose on Feyerwazy's smooth face. Her eyes were no longer calm and cold as before, and she rarely hid the deep love in her heart. The elf girl seemed to be completely fascinated by someone's previous heroic appearance. Sioran smiled at Feyerwazy and didn't say much. For him, it was much easier to eliminate these monsters than to step on ants to death. However, there were some things about this monster escape incident that made him a little concerned. It was strange that all the monsters that escaped before did not cause casualties. If it was a monster that fled madly, it would not be like this. Whether it was the large number of civilians or the original killing instinct of the monsters. The first thing should be crazy destruction and attack on the crowd. But none of this happened, they were just purely destroying the buildings on the street. No adventurer or civilian was hurt. It was as if someone had done it on purpose. Sioran came to a conclusion instantly. So, what was his purpose? 15. In an alley on the street where Sioran had been before. Freya, wearing a long robe, had eyes full of water and fascination, and there was a blazing fire burning in her chest. She held her hands tightly on the plump and proud firmness. She wanted to suppress her crazy beating heart. The emotions that had been pent up since she first saw the boy were rising. The desire hidden deep in her soul almost swallowed her completely. $71. As if. Seeing the boy's heroic posture just now, the goddess of beauty felt that her soul had begun to burn. The blazing love almost filled her heart, and she had a desperate impulse. But then, reason gradually took over. Freya exhaled deeply, trying to calm her restless heart. She looked at the direction where the black-haired boy left, and silently swore in her heart. You will definitely be mine. No matter how long it has been, whether in the underworld or in heaven. In the end, I will hold you in my arms forever, my only beloved child. This is the madness of the goddess of beauty. Just as Sioran was about to leave with Fulvice, a huge explosion suddenly sounded in the distant block. Ah! A woman's scream was heard again where the explosion occurred. In this area, a snake-like monster broke out from the ground. Faceless snake probably looks like this. The Amazon twins and the elf Lefia, who were originally strolling around the festival, happened to see the scene. As experienced senior adventurers, they reacted quickly. Let's go, Quorana. The twins' elder sister gestured to her younger sister. Oh. Then, the fists of the two Amazon heroes directly attacked the snake-like monster in front of them at the same time. Such a hard shell. Diona and Dione felt this at the same time. With their Leave 5 power, they couldn't break the monster's defense. They were enjoying the festival today and did not bring their own weapons and protective gear. So they had no way to deal with this guy for the time being and were thinking about how to break its defense. But the monster would not give the twins time to think. Facing their attack, the snake-shaped monster immediately began to counter-attack like a demon. Boom boom boom. The surrounding shops were destroyed and deep marks appeared on the ground. After the monster's rampage, smoke and dust rose from the street. The Amazon twins, who did not carry protective gear and weapons, could only keep dodging the monster's attacks. Finally, they handed over the output position to the elf girl Yat. This girl, who was too serious on weekdays, took her own staff even when participating in the festival. Sniper, elf shooter. Shoot through, the arrow that will hit. Under the cover of the Amazon twins, Lefia found an opportunity to chant magic. A dazzling magic circle rose under her feet, and light particles gathered in the air. However, just as the magic power gathered, the monster suddenly changed the direction of attack. As if attracted by the magic power, it rushed towards Lefia in an instant. This made Diona and Dione, who were originally prepared to face the attack, unable to react. Lefia. The Amazon twins could only remind their companions loudly, trying to save the elf girl. But it was too late. Lefia, who was about to complete the magic chant, was at a critical moment. At this time, she was concentrating all her attention on controlling the flow of magic power in her body. Dare not be distracted at all, otherwise it will cause magic explosion and cause terrible consequences. Leffy Ya can only stare blankly at the tail attacking her. Oh! A silver sword light flashed suddenly, and then the monster let out a painful wail. A black-haired boy appeared in front of Leffy Ya, and the black long sword in his hand was flashing a faint stream of light. You haven't learned to chant in parallel yet, elf girl. I remember her name is Leffy Ya, right? Sioran turned around and looked at the stunned elf girl in front of him. The blue eyes were filled with confusion, and it seemed that she had not recovered from the rapid changes in the battlefield. Seeing the stunned Leffy Ya, Sioran smiled helplessly. Then looked at the Amazon twins and reminded Song Er. Tiona, Shin, you get out of the way. Oh! The two sisters left at the same time in tacit understanding, leaving the battlefield empty. Another mutated monster, and its path seemed to be an underground sewer. No wonder I didn't notice its existence before. Sioran stared at the monster in front of him indifferently, and thought of the worm swarm he had encountered before. He could see through its magic stone. The center was also rich in color, and the edge was blue-purple. Colorful magic stone. The snake-like monster seemed to sense danger, and the originally faceless danger suddenly split. Revealing the hideous mouthparts inside, the sharp teeth flashed cold light. It turned out that this was not a snake at all, but a terrifying man-eating plant. But it was still too weak. Sioran felt a little bored, and the tip of the sword gently pointed to the ground. Then a storm arose around the man-eating plant in the blink of an eye, and the strong wind cut it ruthlessly like a sharp blade. Soon, there was only a colorful magic stone left on the ground. This time he left it on purpose. Sioran, do you also know wind magic? Shin was a little surprised, and then hugged Sioran's arm. Very impressive. The Argonauts also saved Fei. Diona picked up the other one. Feyerwazi, who arrived a little later, saw this scene and looked at the Amazon twins with a cold look. Thank you very much, Mr. Sioran. A certain orange-haired elf finally came to his senses and bowed politely to thank him. You don't have to be so polite. You are really serious, yeah? Sioran looked at the elf girl who bowed in front of him and couldn't help but touch her hair. It's bad, I'm used to stroking Feyerwazi. It's been a long time, and he suddenly felt a little flustered. Sioran often gets along with Feyerwazi and Lu, so he naturally understands the characteristics of elves. Ah! Unexpectedly, Leffy Ya didn't react more after screaming. But there were tears flashing in her blue eyes, and she was about to cry. It was obvious that the shock just now was still a bit too big for the girl. Sorry, Leffy Ya. Sioran sincerely apologized to the elf girl. They had only met a few times in the underground maze, so they were not very familiar with each other. Such abrupt behavior, the other party was an elf, must be somewhat offensive. No. It's okay, please. Please don't do this suddenly. Leffy Ya calmed down and said to Sioran timidly. Is it okay not to be sudden, girl? Sioran's thoughts began to spread inexplicably. P.S. The picture shows Leffy Ya 20,000 explosive updates have been sent. I beg friends to subscribe and support data. Thank you very much. The author stayed up all night and day, and it's a bit unbearable. Chapter 50. He is a professional, please subscribe. Why are you the only ones visiting the monster festival today? After easily dealing with the piranha plant, Sioran looked at the Amazon twins beside him with some curiosity. In his past impression, Diona and the others were always with Ace. They were the rare ones who could get in touch with the blonde girl. Especially the natural sister of the twins. She actually has her own unique attentiveness in some aspects. When she first met Ace, she noticed something hidden in the blonde girl. Perhaps it was because of her pure heart. So she could clearly sense the emptiness hidden in the heart of revenge. In the subsequent long-term contact, Diona and her sister gradually formed a team with Ace. So Sioran was a little confused. He had previously discovered that Ace's location was still a certain distance away from this area. Obviously, they did not act together today. But Diona quickly answered his question. Yes, Ace was also there. But Loki pulled her away halfway. Hearing this, Sioran remembered what Isai had done before. She seemed to be ready to chase the fleeing monster, but she stopped after seeing him. When Sioran was slightly lost in thought, a golden figure came quietly with the breeze. It was Isai, who had just been seen in the air. The girl was not equipped with light armor like in the past, but a casual dress with white as the main color. The pure white slim-fitting clothes completely wrapped the girl's tight body, revealing only a little tender skin. Perhaps because she came in a hurry, there was a blush on her dreamy face. With that natural expression, she had a strange contrast of charm at this time. It was enough to arouse any male's primitive desire. Looking down, the girl's well-developed and tender chest outlined a perfect and attractive arc. Well, it seemed that one hand could grab it. Sioran looked at Aisi, who was dressed differently from the past, and did not hide his admiration and praise. It must be said that she became more human. Her charm in Sioran's heart was rising sharply. According to Aici's previous habits, she would never wear these ordinary girl's clothes. Although the expression on her face was still the same as before, the change in her emotions was very obvious. Sioran could clearly sense Aici's inner emotions. Facing his straightforward gaze before, the girl actually felt a little shy. This made Sioran feel inexplicably interested in her, and he looked forward to teaching her in the future. After all, he was professional in training beautiful girls. The girls of my family can testify to this. Confirmed JPG. Are you following Loki, Isai? Diona let go of Sioran's arm and looked at the blonde girl who had just arrived with some doubt. Well, Loki's side is over. After answering Diona's question, Isai turned to Sioran in front of her. Her golden eyes stared at him without blinking. Although she didn't say anything, the meaning of her eyes was very easy to guess. When will you teach me? This seemed to be what the girl wanted to convey. Isai, who was not good at expressing her emotions, could express it in this slightly clumsy way. In terms of stubbornness, she seemed to have never changed. Really? Sioran sighed with a headache. This overly natural character made him feel like he had seen it before. But he had this plan recently, so he said directly to Aisi. I know, I will teach you for a while starting tomorrow. But don't have too high expectations. Sioran did plan to spend some time to guide Aisi. But it was not to make the girl strong quickly, but to let her recognize her own heart first. What he will teach Aisi is not pure strength. But it is about human nature. Now is not the time to give her seeds. Since he chose to be Aici's teacher, he will naturally be responsible to the end. Taking care of the healthy development of students' body and mind is the unshirkable responsibility of teachers. Okay, thank you. Hearing the answer she wanted, Aici's face still had no expression. But there was obviously a hint of joy in her tone, and the brilliance in her eyes seemed to increase a little. This is an empty courtyard, and two figures are intertwined in the center of the courtyard. The silver rapier and the black longsword are constantly close to the figure of the owner. The music of golden swords clashing filled the entire space. The occasional splash of air made the vegetation in the yard tremble. Occasionally, the blonde girl who couldn't control the strength would leave a shallow sword mark on the ground. On the contrary, the black-haired boy on the other side faced the girl's torrential attack leisurely and comfortably. Even if it was just an ordinary swordsmanship sparring, it was enough to make all the adventurers who saw it scalp numb. Because the people practicing in the field were not others. They were the hero and sword princess at the top of this maze city. Even the first-level adventurers would be amazed at their training at this moment. Especially the black-haired boy in the field. He perfectly controlled the strength in his hands and easily dissolved all the girl's sword moves. In the past, the superb swordsmanship that was invincible in the face of monsters. But in front of the boy, it was as powerless as a baby. The girl restrained herself at first because of people. Now she just wants to fight with all her strength and desperately want to get close to his realm. Although it's much better than at first, you're still too anxious, Isai. Sioran looked at the blonde girl in front of him and shook his head. In the past month, he has been here to teach Isai's sword skills. The current location is the Dusk Pavilion, the residence of the Loki family, which is mainly composed of several high towers. The most majestic one in the middle is the central tower, surrounded by 7 spires. The area of the Dusk Pavilion is not large. But contrary to the horizontal area, its height is one of the tallest buildings except the Tower of Babel. When Sioran first came here, a drunkard goddess was still making a scene. "Boy, I will never let you kidnap our beautiful Isai. The dwarf's family is not allowed to enter our base camp," and so on. But with the consent of all the family members, Loki's dissatisfaction was completely ignored by them. Caused the red-haired goddess to often get drunk in the central tower. The miserable appearance of their lord god made the usually elegant Livalia shake her head. The reason why Finn and his friends agreed to Sioran coming to the Dusk Pavilion. In addition to their trust in the hero, instructing Isai is also to improve the strength of their family. Whether from a rational or emotional point of view, they have no reason to refuse. After all, the strongest guidance in Orario is very rare. According to the information Finn learned. Except for the girls of the Hestia family and the Astrea family who received guidance from the hero. I have never heard of anyone else receiving his guidance. If it weren't for the big 3 being busy with their daily affairs and having different expertise. They all wanted to come and watch the hero and the sword princess practice frequently. Compared with their concerns, the other female members of the Loki family didn't think too much. People often come to the courtyard to watch the battle, calling it learning. But in fact, they are staring at a certain boy's face for a long time. Sioran now has such an exaggerated influence in the Labyrinth City. As for why only female members came to watch the battle? This was naturally done deliberately by Sioran. When second-level adventurers like Rahul and others tried to come to the courtyard to watch, Sioran's occasional miss-sword energy instantly extinguished their desire to learn. Even though they later knew that it was the hero who did it on purpose, they did not dare to come here again. Sometimes the Amazon twins would come to him for advice, or more accurately, stick to each other. But most of the time on weekdays, he was practicing swordsmanship with Aisi. The girl's swordsmanship, whether against monsters or people, was actually very good. But Sioran had no plans to teach her anything else for the time being. He just calmed her inner anxiety through the simple practice of swordsmanship. Aisi had always had a certain urgency since the first day of the sparring. Sioran could see this, and guessed that it should be related to the girl's inner obsession. So he began to deliberately use the sword to convey his emotions. Let the girl who is not good at expressing her emotions cross swords. After a month of training, Aisi is no longer as exaggeratedly anxious as she was at the beginning. Slow down your heart, and then slowly get to know it. You will definitely become stronger in the end. This is the most common words the girl has heard during this period. If it was said by others, she would naturally not care. But the one who said this was him who stood at the top of all adventurers. He was the hero who had a momentary fantasy of saving her when she lost everything. So with all kinds of mixed emotions, Aisi chose to believe him. And during this period, she did feel her own growth. Not only did her attainments in sword skills deepen, but also her understanding of the world. The sky that she had never seen carefully before was so blue. The flowers around her that she had never touched were so delicate. Everything became unusually clear after she slowed down her heart. The shadows accumulated in her heart seemed to dissipate a little. The void of nothingness was gradually filled by some kind of power. Aisi didn't know how to describe this feeling, but she didn't resist. Just a little confused. Chapter 51. Dye your own color. Please subscribe. Wow, so amazing. Next to the plants planted in the courtyard, the elf girl Lefia sighed as usual. She would come here in her spare time to watch Sioran and his sparring, and she couldn't help but marvel every time. Sword Princess who stood at the top of the clan and even the entire Maze City. In front of the boy, she was as powerless as a child. There was no gorgeous sword skills, just waving the long sword in her hand steadily and casually. But she was able to block all the exquisite moves of the Sword Princess. If the elf girl knew an idiom from an ancient country, then she should think of such a word. Simplify the complex. It was talking about the sword skills of the boy in the field. There is no perfect move, just look at the eyes that cannot be seen through. For Sioran. Although Aici's sword skills are superb, there are still too many flaws. Hitting one point at random can easily break her moves. As for the reason why Lefia often came to watch their training, it is because of her pure admiration for the Sword Princess. She also has complex feelings for someone, especially since she saved him from the piranha plant. The sense of security brought by being in a desperate situation is absolutely fatal to women. Not to mention that she is an extremely innocent elf girl. Recently, Lefia couldn't help but think of that figure in her mind. After he came to the Dusk Pavilion, it became very frequent. Compared with other tall adventurers, he can even be considered thin. But this seemingly weak figure made Lefia feel inexplicably at ease. So when she first learned that Sioran was going to come here, there was a trace of joy in her heart that she had never noticed. After completing the Royal Elf course every day, she would come here to see the figure that she cared about. Why, still can't keep up with you? Ace tilted her head cutely, her face still looked the same as before. But her tone was filled with a hint of doubt and long-hidden confusion. Even after a month, she still couldn't understand the current situation. She could feel that the boy in front of her suppressed his strength and speed to the same level as her. But for some reason, 343 could never keep up with his movements. After the anxiety in her heart gradually subsided, Aisi felt that the world became much clearer. But she still couldn't see the boy's movements clearly. Just like at the beginning, she was always in a suppressed state. Of course, there is a dimensional gap between our visions. Girl. Sioran complained about Aici's doubts in his heart. Although he completely suppressed his basic abilities to the same level as Aisi. But the gap in vision still exists, and he can easily see through all of Aici's attacks. The girl was like a child in front of him, weak and powerless. But Sioran would naturally not tell her the real reason. He wanted to dye his own color on this pure white paper. Thinking of this, Sioran gave the answer. Because you are too obsessed with the present, Aisi. Compared with the initial teaching, the girl now is much better. She began to learn to slow down her pace and observe the importance that she had never noticed before. A small part of her time was spent on things that she used to think were meaningless. She was gradually regaining her frozen emotions and filling the void. But it was not enough, far from what Sioran wanted. He hoped to see Aisi who no longer suppressed all her emotions. Perhaps before he appeared, revenge and emotion were in conflict with the girl. But this situation will not happen now. When Aisi is completely sure of her heart, he will help the girl become stronger. Not for anything else, just to enjoy the process of dyeing the girl with his own color. This is a period of time for both parties to invest and interweave each other's emotions. However, Sioran found that in addition to doubts, Aisi also had confusion that always existed. He didn't know when this confusion appeared. But he was sure that this emotion must have arisen after she changed. It appeared after the girl changed from sword to human. After Sioran's teaching for a month, the inner confusion has reached its highest point now. Before the girl could react, he continued to say to her, too. You are afraid of your own changes. Right, AISI. Hearing this, AIC's delicate face showed a rare wavering. The thoughts in her heart were completely seen through. She longed for the black-haired boy in front of her. Envy of his speed of becoming stronger, and longing for the power he possessed. During this period of sparring, she felt that the boy in front of her had something she had never had. To be precise, it was something she had in the past but lost now. It was not strength, nor was it capacity, but something more complicated. Well, I am afraid of the changes now. Why can you become so strong? AIC's tone was full of doubts and expectations. Even though she did become stronger during this period, her inner confusion was also deepening. She didn't understand, she wanted to know the answer. Sioran walked in front of AISI and held her slender and soft little hand. This behavior has happened countless times. At first, the girl would be shaken by the instinctive reserve of women. But after Sioran said this will make you stronger, she stopped struggling. Now she is used to such intimate actions. Of course, this is a lie. This is just what Sioran did because he thought it was interesting. Just like the big bad wolf coaxing the little white rabbit. Seeing the natural girl listening to his words and not moving obediently. I have to say, it is very exciting. Then, Sioran Aisi put her hand on her chest. Gently said to her. Because here. Don't refuse to change, you should seriously feel your heart. Is it resisting? Sioran knew what Aisi was afraid of. She was eager to improve herself, pursue power, and want to achieve her long-cherished wish. But as she joined the Loki clan, her heart, which was as cold as a sword, gradually softened. No longer like a cold weapon before, but truly possessed human emotions. The closed door of the heart gradually opened a gap. Now, this door is facing someone's strong intrusion. But Aisi didn't know whether this emotion was good or bad. Some long-suppressed emotions were running in her heart like a torrent. She was afraid of this change, she was afraid that she would become weak because of it. Standing still, that was something she absolutely could not accept. Now, someone told her the answer. Listening to the boy's words, Aisi put her other hand on her chest. Bang bang bang. The rhythm of the two hearts beat gradually became consistent, as if some kind of connection had been established. Aici's breathing gradually became rapid, and a pink streak suddenly appeared on her perfect face. The delicate and small earlobes were also stained with red, exuding amazing charm. Ignoring the girl's hesitation, Sioran's voice suddenly became powerful. Tell me, does it resist? Ace Wallenstein. The blonde girl raised her head blankly and met the deep black eyes. It seems, not. Ace's pretty face was a little uncertain. She tilted her little head, as if confused and sure. Hearing this answer, Sioran's smile became gentle. The sunlight around seemed to be brighter for this. No matter how you change, you just need to keep your original self unchanged. If you feel confused, look forward, because I am waiting for you in front of you. Hearing this, Aisi stared at the boy's eyes in a daze, which were full of encouragement and expectation. For a long time, I have been uneasy, doubtful, and confused about my own changes. Now I have found the answer here. Don't be confused, don't be afraid, I'm standing in front of you. You just need to keep moving forward. This is what he told himself. It was a long time later that Sword Princess fully understood the power of the mind. Feeling the powerful beating of the other's chest, the confusion in Aici's eyes gradually dissipated. For a moment, it seemed to return to the time when she was gently embraced by the golden figure. I want to catch up with you. Ah, I'm looking forward to it. Looking at Aisi, who was determined, Sioran did not hide his admiration. The girl's turbid obsession has become a pure belief. This is how I became stronger, so don't be confused, don't be afraid. Accept your changes, and then try your best to catch up. It seems that what I want to tell her has been conveyed. In this way, Sioran can relieve himself from the restrictions of the device for Aisi. If she still maintains the previous state, she will definitely be backfired by the power in the end. If she blindly pursues power and abandons her original intention, she will eventually become a slave to power. That is too weak and too boring. I will always be me. This is the only fact that Ran can confirm, no matter how long it has passed or what changes have occurred. Although it is still unclear where Aici's fire of revenge comes from. But the light of her heart is already clear. Seeing this, Sioran was completely relieved and could also carry out the subsequent teaching. The Sword Princess who gradually understands the power of the mind will become stronger. Sioran is also looking forward to what she can do after he removes the restrictions on the girl. I am very grateful to you, Changran. We have worked so hard for so long to make this child have a little change. But you have made her reach this level in such a short time. Can you say that you are worthy of being a hero? Livalia came to the courtyard without knowing when. Looking at the two people in the courtyard, the royal elf sighed with relief. In the past, she had spent a lot of effort to teach Aisi all kinds of common sense. The young sword princess was quite stubborn and obstinate. She was always indifferent, but she was angry many times, and they had many quarrels for this. Now seeing the changes in Aisi, she was happy for this child from the bottom of her heart. Livalia is obviously just a girl, don't make such a mother like Sai. Sioran joked to Livalia, and the relationship between them was already very familiar. Such jokes would happen occasionally, and Sioran originally thought so. A lot of time has indeed passed on the royal elf. For ordinary humans, it is indeed a long time. But in the eyes of immortals like Sioran, it is actually not a long time. Even according to the elves' philosophy, Livalia is in her prime. Point. The beauty of the royal elves once aroused the jealousy of the goddess. This matter is also widely circulated in Orario. Haha, this is the first time I have heard someone say this to me. Sioran, you are very good at making people happy. Livalia answered with a gentle smile, everything seemed generous and decent. She, Finn and Grace were the first members to join the Loki family. She has become a veteran in the development of the family. In addition, although she did not like the royal blood, the members of the family respected her too much. Therefore, Livalia has always felt like an elder in the family. She has always had some good feelings for this young man who left a deep impression on her since the first meeting. Unlike the respectful attitude of others, he always treats her as an equal. He did not care about the dignity of the royal blood. He just treated her as the elf girl Livalia, that's all. She did not hate this unprecedented sense of equality. It was a completely different feeling from when she was with Finn and Grace. P.S. The picture shows Aisi. Chapter 52. A fun-loving person with a bottom line, please subscribe. I'm telling the truth, Livalia. You are just an ordinary elf girl in front of me. Looking at the royal elf in front of her, who fell into deep thought after hearing certain words. Sioran really couldn't understand why the members of Loki's family regarded her as an elder. The emerald green hair full of vitality naturally fell to the waist, and swayed with the breeze from time to time. The slender and elegant lines outlined a perfect outline that even goddesses would be jealous of. The clear green eyes always reflected elegance and wisdom, as if she was not surprised by everything. The proud curves were tightly wrapped by the conservative clothes unique to elves. Facing the royal elves with outstanding temperament and appearance. No matter when they met, Ran couldn't help but show a trace of admiration and amazement. However, in the eyes of the members of Loki's family. Whether it is strength or the noble blood flowing in Livalaya, it makes people feel unattainable. They are in awe of this royal elf who joined the family at the beginning of its establishment. No one dares to approach her actively. The title of the strongest wizard in Orario is enough to suppress the other members. Even the elf girl Lefia, who is now learning from Livalaya. She also maintains absolute respect and admiration. Sioran would never have such an idea, he only has undisguised admiration and praise. He can clearly sense Livalaya's disgust for some old conservative rules. In the past, the royal elves have always lived in awe of their own kind. Although breathing the same air, she always feels that she has an inexplicable sense of separation. She hated the traditions that bound her tightly, so she fled the Elfland with Aegina's mother. After leaving there, Livalaya's ideal was not to become a powerful adventurer. She just wanted to see this vast world with her own eyes. Walk through every mountain and cross every river. Witness the magnificence and colorfulness of this world. But she later found that even if she left the Elfland, that made her feel depressed. The inherent chains still existed around her and never dissipated. It's just not as rigid as the Elfland. Even if she joined the Loki family, she could still feel those familiar sights. That was the awe and respect flowing from her blood. Only a very few people could communicate with her on an equal footing, but they never treated her as an ordinary girl. However, despite this, Livalaya actually had a little expectation deep in her heart. She wondered if someone would really treat her as an equal one day. Now, that person has obviously appeared. It started with the encounter in the tavern. She had a little curiosity and affection for the black-haired boy in front of her. There had never been that familiar awe in his eyes. There was only indifferent equality, whether it was for her or the main god Loki. In fact, equality seemed to be just a trivial matter. But it was often such seemingly trivial things that could never be realized. Therefore, the royal elf's heart was shaken for the first time at that time. What happened later surprised her even more. The black-haired boy who had just received the favor easily defeated the werewolf who belonged to the second-level adventurer. Even though her companion was captured by him, Livalaya did not feel angry. After all, she knew very well the bad character of the werewolves in her clan, and she often quarreled with them for this reason. The other party's extreme contempt for the weak made Livalaya dislike it from the bottom of her heart. So she didn't worry much about the werewolves who were taught a lesson. Instead, her curiosity about the boy gradually deepened and continued until now. Sioran couldn't guess what the royal elf who was currently silent was thinking. After all, the mind of a girl is the most difficult to guess, not to mention that this is a 100-year-old girl. Then he thought that AIC's current state is no longer suitable for training. So he said to Livalaya, "I plan to take AISI to the underground maze later as a relaxation after training. 0141095115 Filu 144333131. Do you want to come too?" Now AISI has dispelled her own confusion, and only pure faith is left. As long as she keeps going, she will continue to get stronger. She began to recognize that what she needs in her heart is not a very high-intensity training. Instead, she slowed down her pace and really felt all the changes in her body. The pressure caused by the high tension over the years has accumulated in Isai's body for a long time. The girl who used to only care about getting stronger did not notice this. "Please give me flowers." Her body is actually under some kind of pressure, and it is always jumping on a dangerous balance. It's like walking on a tightrope in the sky. Livalaya and the others saw Isai's condition, but they couldn't change the girl's stubbornness. They could only remind her slightly, hoping that she would reduce the pressure on herself. Although she was grateful for Livalaya's kindness, the girl did not reduce her daily training. Until Sioran came here. He started to relieve Isai's long accumulated fatigue a month ago. Finally, it was not until today that her transformation was completed. During this period of time, the girl gradually released her emotions and pressure through constant swordsmanship exchanges. Now her physical and mental state is about to reach a critical point, which is suitable for going to the underground maze. This is an opportunity for evolution. Sioran hasn't been to the maze for a while, and he really misses his old friend. For him now, enjoying all kinds of fun is the most important thing. Whether it is teaching Sword Princess or exploring the unknown in the maze, it is one of his hobbies now. His essence is actually a fun person with his own bottom line. Relax in the maze _. It sounds good. I'll have a relaxing adventure after a long time. The royal elf who was trapped in memories was awakened by the boy's words and gladly accepted his invitation. Most of the time, Livalia followed the members of her family to explore or go on expeditions. She rarely went on adventures alone, and she occasionally wanted to experience the fun of exploring the maze. Now is a good opportunity. In addition, she has a little affection for the boy, so she is naturally happy to go with him. I want to go too, if Miss Isai and Lady Livalia go. Hearing their conversation, she hurriedly spoke. The fair and tender cheeks were slightly flushed due to urgency. The elf girl was unusually bold at this time, and she was no longer shy and timid as before. The people she cared about were going to the underground maze, so she certainly didn't want to stay alone in this courtyard. Today's tasks and studies have been completed, so she wants to go with them. Pictured is Livalia. Factory. Chapter 53, Relaxation After Training. Please subscribe. Then. Sioran, let's go too. It's been a long time since I explored the maze with you. Before Sioran finished speaking, the enthusiastic and bold Amazon twins suddenly appeared. Apparently, they were also ready to join the maze exploration team. Kel. Tiona and Shin walked up to him skillfully and hugged his arms. Fortunately, Fairweiss was not here. Otherwise, the elf girl would definitely watch their actions with the cold eyes of the past. With the personality of the pure white elf, she couldn't stand the direct expression of emotions by the Amazon twins. The Amazon race loves fighting and passion, and will not hide their feelings when facing the person they like. The elves are completely the opposite. They maintain the traditional and inherent concept of chastity. Generally speaking, even when facing someone they admire, they will not choose to take the initiative to attack, and pay attention to gradual progress. Feeling the Amazon girl's unreserved actions, Sioran's expression gradually became a little subtle. Shin and the others are always so frank and straightforward in their offensive against him. Although he is already familiar with their personalities, he is still caught off guard sometimes. However, he is the only one who can get the tenderness unique to the Amazon heroes. But compared to the feelings brought to him by the twin sisters, the younger sister is a little hard to describe. If Shin is compared to the turbulent waves in the sea, then Tiona is the calm lake. Keep going. Tiona. Feeling the warmth of the twins, Sioran's thoughts began to spread unconsciously. Stare. However, she was soon pulled back by the inexplicable gazes of the other girls. Ace still had that expressionless look, but her eyes became sharp for some reason. Her eyes were firmly fixed on the arms of the Amazon twins who were tightly hugging the boy. Although 347 did not show any expression, Sioran could clearly perceive her complex thoughts. Inexplicable anxiety was filling Isai's heart, and she herself did not know what this feeling was. She only knew that there was something uncomfortable there. Woo! Leffy Ya looked at the Amazon twins who expressed their emotions directly with a ruddy face. The bold scene in the courtyard had a severe impact on the extremely innocent elf girl. For a moment, she could not say anything. She could only use her slender palms to slightly cover her eyes. Eyes. Girl, you can cover it if you want, but what does it mean to cover only half of it? Looking at the brown-haired elf who seemed to be trying to cover his ears and steal the bell, Sioran couldn't help but complain in his heart. Livalia sighed helplessly and closed one of her eyes skillfully. After the tavern incident, she learned from Dione about the connection between them and Sioran. For the Amazon sisters in their family who did not hide their feelings. The royal elves have always been a little troubled by their behavior, but they did not stop them. After Livalia went to explain their arrangements to Finn, the group went directly to the Pantheon on West Street. As soon as Sioran walked into the magnificent guild headquarters hall, Aina found him. "Hey, Sioran, why are you walking with everyone from Loki's family today?" The half-elf girl was a little curious. In the past few years, she had never seen the boy enter the Pantheon with members of the Loki clan. During this month, Sioran spent most of his time in the Twilight Pavilion of the Loki clan. He would only return to his clan's residence at night. Besides, he did not come to the guild hall to accept commissions, so Aina naturally did not know his life during this period. "I've been practicing with them recently, and today I plan to take on a normal adventurer's commission. Just treat it as a relaxation after training." Sioran gently answered Aina's doubts. Then, under the recommendation of the half-elf girl, he chose a somewhat strange commission too. The singing echoing in the maze, please find the owner of the singing in the lower area. It's different from the monster's violent roar, but a kind of singing that makes people intoxicated. Is it a human or a monster, or the dungeon itself? The person who commissioned this task seemed to be too concerned about this and couldn't sleep at night. Sioran looked at the parchment in his hand with interest. This strange commission just aroused some of his interest. Unknown singing. "I didn't expect the Argonauts to be interested in this. The reward doesn't seem to be high, and no one cares about this commission." Dione came closer and looked at the parchment in his hand curiously. "Unknown is always interesting. Isn't it, Dione?" Looking at the lively Amazon girl in front of him, Sioran smiled. The eyes of the female adventurers around him were full of brilliance. Nowadays, no matter where Genran goes, he is always the focus of the surroundings. He never cares too much about things like commissions and rewards. He will take on tasks with rich rewards, but the ultimate goal is for his own enjoyment. In front of interest, money is just an optional accessory for him. Dione seemed to be dazed by the smile of the boy in front of her. The naive girl didn't know what to say for a moment. "It does look interesting, and it seems to be a good adventure." Livalia had an elegant smile on her face, and she was also looking forward to this mission. As first-level adventurers, it was not difficult for them to earn Ferris. What's more, this was a long-awaited relaxing trip, so they didn't care about the commission reward. As for Ace and Lefia, they didn't care about these things. This trip to the underground maze was also specifically because of someone's words, and naturally they would follow his ideas. "Then it's decided, let's go." Looking at the girl's eyes of silent agreement, Sioran did not hesitate too much. "This floor feels so beautiful every time I come here." The brown-haired elf's eyes were full of joy, and she seemed to be very satisfied with everything around her. Sioran and the others are currently in a vast forest. The lush vegetation grows wildly here. It adds a touch of green to the maze. There are also an astonishing number of blue crystals on the ceiling above. They continue to grow in an interlaced manner at the top, forming a cluster like a fungus. The crystal group is emitting a faint light, forming the sky of this maze. This is the middle-level safety floor, the 18th floor. As elf girls who love nature and life, Lefia and Livalia both like the surrounding environment now. The air carefully filtered by the vegetation seems to become particularly fresh. Now it seems that it is daytime. Livalia looked at the crystal above her head and guessed the current time. This underground sky made of blue crystals will have a lower brightness as time changes, thus forming the morning, daytime and nighttime periods. However, the changes in time periods are not always fixed. It will gradually produce errors with the time periods on the surface. Moreover, this error is not always constant, and there are often some changes. The blue crystal group grows not only on the top of the floor. The same crystal exists in many corners of the entire floor. The lush forest also presents a touch of indigo color under the reflection of this group of crystals. Then let's go to Rivera town to rest for a while. Anyway, it's still early. Sioran plans to take them to the only town built by adventurers on this floor. Rivera town. In the center of the 18th floor is a grassland with an extremely obvious giant tree. There is a big hole at the root of the giant tree, which is the entrance to the 19th floor. The Rivera town that Sioran and his friends are going to is on an island. It is located in the west of the floor. It is an island located on a blue lake. Various towering buildings on the island can be seen from a distance. On the island, you can overlook the scenery of nature and dreams. There was once a wealthy man who even spent a lot of money to hire a team of adventurers to escort him here in order to enjoy this magnificent scenery. The unique scenery of the 18th floor is so well known. When Sioran and Aisi arrived at the island, there was a wooden archway in front of them. The cloth flag on the top of the door read Rivera Town. The original proposal to build this town was made by the guild. The guild originally planned to set up this safe floor as a transit station. After all, there are too few safe floors in the underground maze. Under normal circumstances, floors that do not produce monsters can be used as important strategic transit points. It can facilitate adventurers to trade in the maze. It can also provide a temporary resting place for the families who will go on expeditions later. Expeditions usually take a long time. It is difficult to proceed without sufficient supplies. And in the exploration of the upper floor, a lot of precious materials or magic stones will inevitably drop. In normal circumstances, this would naturally be a good thing. But during the expedition, too much material accumulation is a big burden. A lower-level adventurer member of the expedition family. It is already a great pressure to carry the huge amount of materials needed by the team. In addition to the increasing magic stones and other materials along the way. Even if they are adventurers who have undergone evolution, they will still feel tired. Therefore, the original idea of the guild was to make this place a safe transit point. However, it was later abandoned due to frequent sudden monster attacks and high maintenance costs. Generally speaking, no new monsters will be generated on the safe floor. But it does not mean that there are no monsters on this floor. Occasionally, monsters from other floors will attack here. After all, the underground maze is always full of surprises. So the guild's initial plan failed before it was carried out for long. But after that, a group of adventurers took over this place without authorization. Then it was built into the current Rivera town. Once this town encounters an unexpected situation, the adventurers stationed here will decisively choose to give up. They are not stationed here as the guild originally planned. Instead, they gathered here temporarily and established a transit station for a short time. When the abnormal situation destroyed the town, they would come back to rebuild it again. This repeated process has led to the current Rivera town being the 334th generation. It can be seen how many times this town has been ravaged by monsters. However, it still survived tenaciously and became a temporary residence for the middle class. Sioran, are we going to rest here today? Those guys are really evil. Shin looked at Sioran, indignant at those guys he was talking about. Because of its unique strategic location, the prices in Rivera town are very exaggerated. A casual ration or a second-hand single sword can reach more than 5 figures. If it were placed on the surface, it would be unimaginable. Therefore, adventurers also call this place Rogue Town or Cannibal Town. Shin is so stingy. It's okay to stay here occasionally. Before Sioran spoke, Ona immediately complained about her sister. She complained about her slightly stingy behavior at this time. You are too careless. It's okay, Shin. Since I proposed this journey, just teach me everything. Before the Amazon sisters started their daily quarrel again, Sioran comforted Shen. Hearing his answer, Shen's angry face immediately turned back to her usual gentleness. It seems that as long as it is his plan, the Amazon girl will always obey it completely no matter what. Shen, who never hides her pride in front of the leader of the dwarf tribe of the family. When she is with Sioran, she always restrains all her sharpness. It seems that this time it all depends on your generosity. Sioran. Livalia teased the boy gently, and it was obvious that she had relaxed a lot. It has been a long time since the royal elves came to the underground maze leisurely like this. At this moment, she is enjoying a rare leisure time, and her mood has gradually become a little lighter. In the past, she would not make such a joke. Livalia's occasional charm made Sioran's heart ripple slightly. No wonder her beauty once attracted the jealousy of the goddess. Te. Ai Sigwang 2.8G showed a little apology on her cheek. Because the previous expedition was interrupted halfway, the funds of their family flag were already stretched. The last expedition not only did not bring rich accumulation, but also consumed a lot of funds and equipment. The girl herself also needs maintenance because of the wear and tear of the weapon, and now she is even more short of money. Isai's sword of despair was made by the Gubernio family. Although it has the attribute of indestructibility, it still needs maintenance. Moreover, the girl's previous fighting style was very wild. She often caused some wear and tear on her beloved sword. Therefore, the cost of daily weapon maintenance alone has accumulated to an astronomical figure. And this maze trip was specially brought out by Sioran to relax. Now he has to spend a lot of money for this. The simple girl felt a little sorry. It's okay, Isai. After all, it's for my lovely apprentice, and it doesn't cost much. Seeing Isai showing this rare look that only normal girls have, Sioran was a little relieved and smiled. He would not care about such things. At present, the precious materials accumulated in his space have already reached an exaggerated level. No matter how much he spends, he can't use it all up. Moreover, he doesn't even care about these accessories now. The most important thing is to enjoy the fun and comfort of adventure. For him, the fun of this journey is apart from the somewhat strange commission. The only thing left is the joy of exploring with beautiful girls like Aisi. Hearing Sioran's answer, Aisi's delicate face was stained with a faint blush. The girl's long frozen emotions are now slowly melting. Pictured is Shen. Chapter 54 I won't eat you. Something seems wrong. The atmosphere in the town is a bit strange. Soon after entering the town, Livalia realized the strange feeling coming from the surroundings. Indeed. Sioran also found something very inconsistent here. Rivella town is the only adventurer town in the safe floor. Generally speaking, even adventurers who plan to go deeper below the 19th floor will use this place as a temporary stop. They choose to stay in a hotel in the town, or sell the magic stones and other materials they have collected before. There are even many adventurer shops that choose to stay here for a long time for high profits. So this town is not crowded, but it should be very lively. However, from the moment Sioran and his friends entered the town, occasionally, they saw a few adventurers walking by in a hurry. Compared to the scene when they came to this town before, it was a world of difference. In the past, even at the entrance of the town, the streets were full of stalls of various adventurers. The once bustling city is now deserted. This is very abnormal. Either the adventurers here left for unknown reasons, or something happened in this town that attracted the attention of most adventurers. Then, let's go find out what happened. After a little thought, Sioran randomly walked into a shop next to the street. Instead of guessing here without any clue, it is better to ask the adventurers in the town directly. When it comes to intelligence capabilities, small shops that are often visited by adventurers are naturally more reliable. Boss, do you have time? Sioran entered a comprehensive store. There were various supplies of potions and equipment inside. There were all kinds of common equipment such as spears, swords, round shields, etc. There were also a few blankets that looked like props dropped by some monsters. Although the store's facade did not look very good, it was surprisingly rich inside. This seemed to be a store that was engaged in both purchases and sales. When Sioran just walked in, the boss was bowing his head to sort out his goods. He did not raise his head for the time being, and answered him in a low voice. "Welcome." But soon, inexplicably became a little the dull atmosphere made him raise his head unconsciously. Hero, and Loki's family. When the boss saw the visitor's face clearly, he stuttered. It seemed that he had never expected that the top adventurer in Orario would visit his shop. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming and couldn't help pinching his arm. But then the pain in his arm and the terrible pressure brought by the boy in front of him made him know that he was not in a dream. Although the black-haired boy in front of him had a familiar gentle smile on his lips. But the boss only felt awe and pressure from the bottom of his heart. It was the seemingly gentle and harmless smile. He mercilessly destroyed many of the Orario clans that tried to provoke him. The king who stood at the top by stepping on the corpses of countless monsters and adventurers, Hero. The shop owner felt cold sweat gradually rising on his forehead and back. However, he relaxed a little when he thought of the impression that the boy in front of him had always given to the public. The previous action was just his instinctive reaction, just like a young animal encountering a terrifying natural enemy. He couldn't control the trembling of his body at all. He knew that Hero was not a bloodthirsty person who would only crush the enemy who provoked him. For adventurers and residents living in the Maze City, Hero is not only a worthy existence, but also makes people yearn for and even fanatical. Relax a little, shop owner. I won't eat you. For the boss's exaggerated reaction. Even though Sioran had seen the same scene many times, he was still a little helpless. Although the title he got at the Gods Conference is still Sword of Hope. But in private, both adventurers and ordinary civilians would call him Hero. Sioran didn't have much feeling about the title. As long as it is not a title that makes people feel embarrassed to death, he can accept it. So whether they call him Sword of Hope or Hero, he doesn't feel much. After all, the only two words that can represent him are Sioran. But he found that he seemed to have underestimated the influence of the title Hero. It was as if some long-term desire had been answered. Most adventurers' awe of him was beyond expectations. Some fanatical people seemed to treat him as a god. Pulling back his thoughts that were gradually drifting away, Sioran continued to ask the shopkeeper in front of him. "Boss, we see that the town is a little deserted now. Can you tell us what happened in the town recently?" Hearing this, the boss slightly sorted out his emotions and words. He began to slowly tell the information he knew. A murder case just happened in Rivera Town at the hotel opened by Willie. 710 except for two stupid adventurers who got drunk and fought and died together a long time ago. This is the second time such a thing has happened in this town. Therefore, almost all adventurers are now gathered at Willie's Inn. Most people can't help but be curious about unknown anomalies. Even if what happened makes them feel a little scared, it can't stop their desire to explore, especially adventurers. After learning what happened in the town, Sioran left a bag of ferry for the boss. In the boss's surprised eyes, he went to the location he provided. With Sioran's speed, they naturally arrived at the murder site very quickly. Here is a narrow alley, where a large number of adventurers gathered. They blocked the entrance of a cave-like place, and it was written in the common language Willie Two Ministers. Sioran didn't expect that this so-called Willie Hotel would be a natural cave. The guest rooms inside must be a space similar to a cave. This boss is also very thoughtful, and he actually chose to use this place as a hotel. Sorry friends, the last chapter was blocked, it's hard to top. It should be unblocked tomorrow, and this car can't be driven at all. Chapter 55, There is only one truth. Wow, this is too much. We can't seem to squeeze in. Tiona looked at the adventurers who gathered in a long line at the entrance of the cave. She was a little worried about how to get in. She couldn't squeeze in by normal means. But she couldn't just use force to break through head-on. The girl who didn't like to use her brain was a little entangled, and then looked at Sioran beside her. In Tiona's view, as long as he was there, everything could be solved. Facing the side of the Amazon girl, Sioran could only use his ultimate skill, Beauty Trap. "Excuse me, can you please let us pass by?" Sioran gently patted the shoulder of a female adventurer in front of him. He greeted her skillfully with a gentle smile. The female adventurer who was interrupted suddenly was full of impatience. She was just focusing on the situation in the cave. She felt a chill instantly after being patted from behind. She was just about to teach this ignorant visitor a lesson. But when she turned around and saw that familiar handsome face, her face was startled. A hero. The original anger dissipated instantly, and in the blink of an eye, she put on a surprised smile. Where was the previous dissatisfaction? Only the look of a loyal fangirl remained. Then she excitedly made way for Sioran and the others. By the way, she also kicked the male adventurer who was blocking the way in front. The adventurer was also full of anger at first. But when he saw the person coming clearly, he stood at attention instantly, and then respectfully left a way for Sioran and the others to move forward. The movement here naturally attracted the attention of the other adventurers. After casting curious glances in this direction, the whole place fell silent. The long queue of people, filled with all kinds of chaotic sounds, became strangely quiet at this time. The adventurers surrounding the cave all looked at Sioran and his group strangely. Especially the female adventurers, their eyes were still flashing with strange brilliance. Some bold Amazons even wanted to rush over directly. After all, this is the blood flowing in their bones. In addition to the desire for battle, only combining with a strong man can make them interested. However, when they saw the twins hugging Sioran's arms tightly, they gave up their plans. These are the top big cut Tiona and angry Snakeshin of their tribe. In front of such excellent sisters, they still have a certain self-knowledge. Actively suppressing their inner impulses, they did not dare to approach. So powerful. As expected of the Argonauts. The twin sisters stared blankly at the crowd that gradually avoided Sioran's words. Starting from the first female adventurer, the crowd automatically left a passage for them. The originally crowded adventurer team was completely separated in a certain order at this moment. Alas! After all, Sioran is very popular in Orario, especially among female adventurers. Seeing the scene in front of him, the royal elf's tone was not sure whether it was helpless or emotional. Although he had long known the boy's current terrifying influence, this seemed a bit too exaggerated. Among the female adventurers in Orario, if you want to rank the opposite S**X's favorability, then the one who ranks first must be Sioran, not the gods. Whether it is his handsome appearance that surpasses that of gods, or his amazing achievements in a short period of time. He is the partner that most female adventurers in the Maze City dream of. Therefore, whenever he appears in a certain place, he almost always steals the attention of all the women around him. This is far beyond the reach of those male gods. Seeing this scene, Aisi touched her chest unconsciously. Looking at those female adventurers who cast their admiring and fanatical eyes on the black-haired boy. For some reason, her heart felt a little blocked and she felt very uncomfortable. But now she didn't know what this emotion was. She could only follow Sioran silently and try to suppress this somewhat bad feeling. The girl who was only interested in becoming stronger at first, now gradually cares about unimportant things. A certain orange-haired elf also has the same feeling as Aisi at this time. Clear blue eyes timidly stare at the female adventurers who seem to want to bite people. While silently accusing them of being shameless in their hearts, there is an inexplicable envy growing. "Thank you, excuse me for disturbing you." Sioran politely thanked everyone, and then led the girls into the cave. There is a simple long counter at the entrance of Willie's hotel. The boss usually sits here and waits for guests to come. There are several magic stone lamps on the walls around. However, it is obvious that there is a lack of energy, or he did it on purpose. The hazy halo sways, as if it will go out in the next second. There is some unknown carpet under his feet, and there is a distinct roughness when he steps on it. As soon as he entered the entrance of the hotel, Sioran smelled a bloody smell. He first silently dispersed the smell, then turned back and said to Aisi and the others, "You just wait for me here." Livlia seemed to see his thoughts. She suggested, "Aisi and the others can stay here, I will go in with you." Sioran shook her head. The scene inside was not suitable for the girls to see. Although I know that the Loki family has experienced the darkest period of Orario. They not only have rich experience in dealing with monsters, but are also good at fighting against dark factions. Aisi's skills in dealing with people were honed during that dark period. They have seen the blood hidden in the shadows of the Maze City. But some things should be seen as little as possible. The scene inside is tragic even for the battle-hardened Aisi and Livlia. What's more, there is a pure white brown-haired elf Lefia. As a member who joined the Loki family later, she didn't experience the bloody test. The scene in the cave ahead was still beyond her tolerance. Perhaps only Diona and Dione, who grew up in the world of killing, would not care. However, seeing that Livlia and the others did not seem to be willing to listen to her on this point, Sioran was somewhat helpless and could only ask them to come in later. He walked into the room first to understand the specific situation in advance. In the room surrounded by stone walls, the ground was full of bright red colors. It was like a whole piece of red paint was splashed on a pure white scroll. Near the bed, there was a strong brown body lying on the ground, with the upper body exposed. The area above the neck was like an exploded fruit, with red liquid and minced meat splattering everywhere. The original appearance of the corpse could not be seen at all, only this cruel picture of blood. Seeing this, Sioran picked up a bed sheet from a distance and then covered the head of the corpse on the ground. There were two people here who were checking the corpse and saw the bed sheet that was suddenly covered. One of the adventurers stood up directly, and his face full of flesh was full of anger. The air seemed to become a little hot because of his anger. The originally calm and quiet space suddenly became a little oppressive. "Hey! You!" But when he saw who it was, he swallowed the rest of the words automatically. The slightly dull atmosphere disappeared in an instant. "Perth, check again later." Sioran looked at the one-eyed man in front of him calmly. His tone was flat but unquestionable. He was wearing a sleeveless combat suit, and his muscles were bulging high. His face was full of ferocity, and a black eye mask covered one of his eyes. He exudes a strong aura and looks like he is not easy to mess with. He is the only level 2 adventurer of level 3 in Rivera Town, Perth Elder. He runs a purchasing station in this town and is the real boss behind the scenes of this town. The adventurers active on the 18th floor are generally only level 2. Adventurers with stronger strength basically do not choose to stay on this floor for a long time. Therefore, level 3 Perth is the real controller of this town, and he has great power here. So when the murder happened, he was invited here immediately. As the boss who manages this town, he is naturally responsible for handling these things. He was exploring next to the corpse before, trying to get some clues. But he was interrupted by Sioran, and the anger that had accumulated could not be vented. "Tisk. Hero. I didn't expect a big shot like you to stop on this floor." Perth naturally recognized Sioran's identity. Although he was a little unhappy with his tone, he still calmed down. Of course, he knew the level of his so-called town boss. He was not good enough in front of the top-level adventurers. He could be proud of a group of 4.2 adventurers. But after seeing the first level adventurers, he had no capital to be proud. As an experienced veteran adventurer, he naturally knew when to bow his head. Ignorant and arrogant people will not live long in the underground maze. Only adventurers who know how to judge the situation have a chance to survive various crises. And Perth is obviously well versed in this. Okay, tell me the specific information later. Sioran didn't care about Perth's tone, he was not so narrow-minded. As long as he was not deliberately provoked, he still had a certain tolerance. In addition, he would not need the information Perth had obtained before. So he would not care about his attitude, as long as he was honest. Then Sioran motioned Livalia and others who were waiting outside to come in. When the girls of Loki's family entered the room, seeing the blood all around, they couldn't help but frown slightly. Especially Livalia, who saw the scene for the first time. A strong feeling of nausea rose from the bottom of the girl's heart. The elves who love life and praise nature find it difficult to look directly at this disgusting scene. It's okay. When Livalia was a little bit unbearable, Sioran came to her side. He has been paying attention to the emotions of the girls since Isai and the others came in. After noticing Lifeia's abnormality, he left the place in an instant. Sioran stood in front of the elf girl to prevent her from looking at the disgusting scene again. At the same time, his palm gently stroked her head to relieve the discomfort in her heart. Lifeia looked at the boy in front of her in a daze, as if she had returned to the time when she was attacked by the carnivorous plant before. The nausea caused by the previous impact was dissipating very quickly. Only an inexplicable sense of relief remained, and for a moment she even forgot that she was at the scene of a murder. Ace and the others obviously did not react as much as Lifeia, but I felt a little uncomfortable. Although covered by the bed sheet, I could vaguely infer the tragic scene. Livia quickly judged the situation, and then looked at Sioran with a slightly strange look. This is probably why he stopped them from coming in before. The bed sheet was obviously added later, and the blood stains had not yet soaked through. He stopped us from going in just now, probably for this reason. In addition to Isai and the others, did you also consider yourself? Although I know that they are all powerful first-level adventurers in the Aura Belt and not ordinary girls. But I still chose this way. Livia really received the boy's gentleness. Okay. No wonder Isai, who I watched grow up since childhood, has changed so much in him. The royal spirit who was treated like this for the first time, the spirit, because of the heart, has a little layer of movement. Sioran naturally did not think so much. In his opinion, Aisi and the others are no different from ordinary girls. It's okay to deal with vicious monsters. There is no need to let them see such a cruel murder scene. Perth, what did you find? Without wasting time, Sioran asked Perth about the previous investigation results. Due to the pressure he brought, Perth did not hide anything. He happily told all the information he had. The dead adventurer entered the hotel wearing full body armor. He was accompanied by a woman in a robe. From the existing information, the woman is naturally the most suspicious. Perth and others speculated that during the joy, the woman seized the opportunity to kill the man. But both of them entered the hotel with their faces covered, so their identities could not be identified. The person who followed Perth was the hotel owner Willie. According to him, there were only these two people who entered the hotel last night. The man in full armor chose to book the whole place. They could think of what they were going to do with their toes. After all, in this natural cave, any sound would be particularly clear at night. And the men and women who were ready to make love naturally did not want to be disturbed by others. Willie went to a tavern not far away to drink last night and stayed there all night. The people there could also testify for him, so his suspicion was eliminated first. So, there is only one truth: the murderer who took the man's life was the woman who was traveling with him. The picture shows Diona. the mentality is a little bit worn out, and the 53rd chapter is still being revised. Chapter 56 Stop kidding. So this man's identity cannot be ascertained for the time being. After learning all the information, Sioran looked at Perth beside him. The only two adventurers who entered the hotel had their faces covered. Adventurers usually register relevant information when they check into the hotel. But the male adventurer was too generous, so Willie did not ask for this. He could not have imagined that such a tragedy would happen the next day. He was completely immersed in the joy of the valuable magic stones given by the other party. Adventurers generally do not carry gold coins when exploring the underground maze. In order to keep the luggage space sufficient, they use receipts to trade when they stop in Rivera Town. They will fill in their relevant information on the receipts provided by the store. And they will also print the emblem of their clan. Therefore, the owners of the shops here will charge the headquarters of their factions after returning to the surface. To put it simply, it is something similar to credit guarantee. And the male adventurer who checked in yesterday obviously did not want to use this conventional method. Deliberately using magic stones to pay for living expenses, obviously not wanting others to recognize their identities. Similar things are quite common in the underground maze. There are always some adventurers who come to Rivera Town with unknown purposes. Sioran didn't feel anything about the tragic scene in the cave. After all, he had already lost count of the monsters and adventurers he had killed over the years. In his eyes, the life 030 that had nothing to do with him was just a number. He would not deliberately bully the weak and cause killing, but he was definitely not a saint who protected everything. Therefore, he always responded to the extinction of other lives with an indifferent attitude. Sioran would follow his heart and take care of his own girl. But everything else was unimportant. The so-called righteousness or reputation would eventually disappear. Under the torrent of time, only the immortal species could overlook this world. However, he now had a little interest in these two adventurers who deliberately concealed their identities. It was not their strength, but their purpose of avoiding others. I originally thought that this trip would only involve that mysterious singing voice besides accompanying AISI and the others to relax. But I never thought that such a thing would happen during a short stay on this safe floor. Suddenly, I remembered a certain elementary school student who I had seen before. No matter where he went, strange events would always surround him. Could it be that he had a similar physique? Then this is really interesting. Just as Sioran was slightly lost in thought, a rough voice interrupted him. Hey, of course there is a way to find out his identity. I specially asked someone to bring the unlocking medicine, BFCC. Perth showed a proud smile on his face, full of confidence in the unlocking medicine he mentioned. After knowing from Willie that the two adventurers were deliberately concealing their identities, he immediately asked his men to find the only person in the town who could make the unlocking medicine. Under normal circumstances, the ability values behind the adventurers will be locked by their main gods. Only gods can open it, in order to prevent the leakage of private information of their family members. Even if the blockade is lifted, there are very few adventurers who understand the sacred text. Except for the gods, only a very small number of people have this talent. Therefore, the ability value information behind the adventurer is basically difficult to be exposed. However, should we say that supply always corresponds to demand? In this case, a special item appeared: unlocking medicine. Only adventurers who have learned the mystery of developing abilities can make it. They use the blood of the gods as raw materials through the special skills they have learned. Then they make a potion that can reveal the ability values behind the family members. But this unlocking medicine generally only flows on the black market and is an illegal item. As for why he appeared in Rivera Town now, it can be seen that there is an unknown undercurrent surging behind the town. Not long after waiting, a short man came in with a tube of luminous liquid. The potion in his hand was obviously the banned item unlocking medicine. When he first saw Sioran and the others, the man's face showed an uncontrollable surprise. For a group of adventurers who prefer to live in the dark, the brilliance of Hero is a bit too dazzling and difficult to look directly at. After Perth bowed his head and signaled, he reacted from the shock. The short man who understood the boss's meaning walked directly to the brown corpse lying on the ground. Seeing this, Sioran looked at the girls of the Loki family and said, "You go out for a while and come in after they finish unlocking. If you want to check the ability value, you naturally need to lift the sheet covering the corpse. AISI and the others may be able to withstand the shock of seeing it, but Lei certainly can't. She couldn't stand the previous scene, let alone the scene after it was opened." Livalia understood what he meant, and she also noticed the situation just now. This time she didn't refuse, and took AISI and the others away temporarily. The short man turned the body over first, and then skillfully poured the unlocking medicine on his back. Then his thin fingers kept sliding on the back, unlocking it in a very special and complicated way. Soon, a whole text like an inscription appeared on the back of the body. "Boss Perth, it's done." After analyzing the ability value, the short man looked at the actual boss of this town with a charming smile. Like a loyal dog waiting for a reward. Seeing this, Perth threw him a bag full of farley, indicating that he could leave. The short man happily took the purse, and then looked at Sioran and the others with fear. Seeing Zhenran nodded slightly, he left Willie's hotel carefully. Perth tried to check the ability value information on the back of the body. But when he saw those complex and obscure words, he couldn't help but pat his forehead. It seemed that he just realized that he couldn't understand these sacred words. As the behind-the-scenes boss who stayed in Rivera Town for many years to make profits, he had no interest and no talent to learn the relevant knowledge of sacred words. The information of the dead adventurer was revealed in front of him.